I'm Nima Rajan. The economy grew by 0.8% in October. The manufacturing sector rebounded 1.8% in October, which is more than offsetting a September contraction. Statistics Canada reports total economic activity in October was 0.4% below pre-pandemic levels, with preliminary data for November suggesting a rise in GDP of 0.3%. Canada's top doctor says new modeling shows COVID-19 cases could be very high by next month. Chief Public Health Officer Dr. Theresa Tam warns urgent action is needed to curb the rise of the fast-spreading Omicron variant, which is now the dominant strain in several provinces. Dr. Tam says there were more than 11,300 new daily infections nationwide on Tuesday, which is more than double the average daily rate a week earlier. Ontario has blown past its record for daily COVID-19 infections and is reporting 5,790 new cases. The previous record of 4,812 was set back in April. Quebec's health department is reporting 9,397 new cases today, which is also a record high. This marks the fifth day in a row that the province has shattered previous records. University of British Columbia researchers say they have completed an analysis of the rapidly spreading Omicron variant, revealing key information about why it's so infectious. Sri Ram Subramaniam, with the Department of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, says it has 37 mutations. This is 3 to 5 times more than any other variant so far. He says that means Omicron is very effective at evading the binding of antibodies that can neutralize and block its entry into cells, while at the same time it retains the ability to bind with receptors that transport it inside cells. This combination of characteristics makes the variant particularly transmissible. The research released last week is awaiting peer review. The Manitoba government says KN95 masks are being made available for free at liquor stores and casinos. Central Services Minister Reg Helwer says the KN95 masks have been shown to be more effective than other masks as they fit better and provide a higher level of filtration. Customers are being offered 1 pack of masks while supplies last. The union representing 30,000 Alberta nurses and allied healthcare workers is recommending they accept a proposed collective agreement with the provincial government. The 4-year deal would be retroactive to April of 2020 and would amount to pay increases of 4.25%. A third party mediating talks between Alberta Health Services and the United Nurses of Alberta also recommended a pandemic bonus and cash investments for recruitment and retention. A ratification vote is set for January 17th. Ontario laboratory workers say they are putting in long hours and being asked to cancel vacation plans in order to handle a huge surge in COVID-19 tests. The head of their association says when COVID hit, 70% of the province's labs were already short-staffed. Michelle Hode adds that many workers have since retired early or left the profession due to the pressures of the pandemic. She says the remaining lab assistants and medical laboratory technologists are working beyond humanly possible to ensure timely test results. Heightened public health restrictions are now in effect across all of Newfoundland and Labrador. Bars, cinemas, and theaters are closed, and restaurants must operate at half capacity, with physical distancing measures in place. Provincial health officials announced the changes yesterday, along with 60 new cases of COVID-19 in the province. Officials say the measures are intended to stop the spread of the Omicron variant, and they'll be reevaluated on January 10th. The federal government is spending another $30 million to help people at risk of going hungry. This brings total funding for the issue to $330 million. Agriculture Minister Marie-Claude Bibeau says the move is a response to increased demand for food banks and programs during the COVID-19 pandemic. Laurie Nickel, the CEO of Second Harvest, says its latest research shows that since the outset of the pandemic, over 6 million Canadians have visited one of the more than 60,000 charities, schools, nonprofits, and food hubs just to get food. And FIFA has named the Canadian men as this year's most improved side. This comes after they jumped 32 places to reach number 40 in the FIFA rankings. The team was rewarded for gaining 130.32 points. This was in FIFA's ranking system over the last 12 months, fueled by success in World Cup qualifying and reaching the semifinals of the Gold Cup. Canada remains unchanged at number 40, which is its highest ever position in the December rankings released Thursday. The Canadians have outscored their opposition 55-11 this year. All right, we'll be back after the break with a look at the markets ahead of the holidays. An interview with Brendan Caldwell, director of Caldwell Securities, up next. And of course, more news from around the world coming up shortly, so stay tuned. We'll be right back on Forum Daily News. Stocks closed higher on Wall Street Wednesday, adding to the week's gains ahead of the Christmas holiday. The S&P 500 rose 1%, the Nasdaq rose 1.2%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.7%. The Russell 2000, a meter of small company stocks, rose 0.9%. Technology companies and a mix of retailers led the gains. Major indexes are still on track for weekly gains after a rally on Tuesday. European and Asian markets also closed higher. The yield on the 10-year Treasury note fell to 1.46%. And U.S. markets will be closed on Friday in observance of Christmas. Well, joining us now to give us his Christmas outlook for the markets is Brendan Caldwell, director of Caldwell Securities Limited. Brendan, welcome back to Forum Daily.
Thank you, Nima, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Brendan. It is a magical time of the year. Everybody's feeling it. So if there is one Christmas wish or Christmas wish you could make for your investors regarding investments, what would it be?
Well, if I could make one wish for them, that they know what they would like to eventually use their money for themselves, for their families, for the charities they want to support, and then put some thought to, over this holidays, how best to get from here to there. It's a conversation I think worth having with one's partner, with one's spouse, with one's children. I think conversations between the generations about money are very, very important. And have it with one's professional advisor, because I think most of us are half-remembered arguments that our parents had about money. Most parents don't talk to their kids about it. But to the extent that you have a good advisor that can help you articulate to yourself and to another human being what you'd like to actually use your money for, then I think you're beginning to be on the right track.
All right, Brendan, some good advice there. Now, we mentioned that the U.S. markets will be closed on Friday in observance of Christmas. So what exactly does Christmas mean for the stock markets?
Well, from a logistical point of view, if you're up here in the Great White North, it's a bit of a, how would one say it, a schmozzle. Because the U.S. is closed, markets are closed tomorrow. We're a half day tomorrow. Then we're closed Monday and Tuesday in observance of Christmas and Boxing Day. America is not taking any days off for New Year, but we're taking the third off for New Year. So that's all a bit of a mess. Where it will make a bit of a difference is any sort of tax loss selling people would like to do. Wednesday or Friday morning are going to be the last days for Canadians to actually do that with Canadian stocks.
All right, Brendan, and this time of year, we often hear about a Santa Claus rally. So that's a very fitting name for this season. But what exactly is a Santa Claus rally, and is it real?
Maybe. Well, we got some today, as you were talking about this. The early in December, I think what we saw is really two things. Well, three things. You had the much talk about COVID, which I just found out about an hour ago that I have. So put that out there. You had the interest rates in the U.S. particularly looking like they want to go higher, and that's low interest rates have been a big support for markets. But then, from a tax loss perspective, you have people wanting to sell to get whatever gains they can off the table or losses off the table now. So early in December, you've seen a lot more selling, but anybody who wanted to sell is probably sold already. So toward the end of the year, right up until Christmas and between Christmas and New Year's, you don't have very many people selling. The market tends to go up, a Santa Claus rally.
All right, Brendan. Well, it is 2 days before Christmas Day. What does Christmas mean to you?
Well, leaving all markets and everything aside, that if it's true that the God who made heaven and earth and everything in it actually broke into history, because he cared enough about what we were going through to want to be able to experience it himself in all the good and bad and ugly that we go through. If that story is in fact true, then it means to me that it's the most fantastic, wonderful, beautiful story ever told.
Beautiful message there. Any other last messages for our investors as they prepare for the holidays, Brendan?
I think this is a very stressful time for a lot of folks. At the best of times, the holidays are very stressful for people. Spend some time thinking, praying, meditating, talking to God as you understand him, such that realizing that he cares more about you, even you care about you, to the extent that you can turn over some of the worries that you've got, if only for one day, then I think you'll be in a better frame of mind and heart to enjoy all the best that even this very odd season has to offer. Thank you, Nima.
Some food for thought there, Brendan. Always great having you on Forum Daily. Thank you again, and Merry Christmas, Brendan.
Merry Christmas, Nima.
We'll be right back, everyone. 2021 was a year full of extreme climate events, and farmers in the prairies were not excluded. After drought devastated much of Western Canada, many farmers were not able to grow enough hay to feed their herds. So the Canadian Federation of Agriculture stepped in with its Hay West initiative. It aims to ship feed from Eastern Canada to the drought-hit areas in the other side of the country. The program operates on a break-even basis. It buys hay from suppliers in the East for resale at cost to applicants in the West. Applicants interested in supplying or receiving hay should visit the Hay West 2021 website. To tell us more about how farmers across Canada are helping each other out is Todd Lewis, Interim Second Vice President at the Canadian Federation of Agriculture. Sir, welcome to Forum Daily.
Hello, good afternoon.
So let's start with a brief overview of the Hay West initiative.
Well, as you explained in the intro, it was a very dry year across Western Canada, and that was really the big story of this year's drought. It was so widespread that, really from the northern part of the grain belt right down to the southern part, and really east to west, really even from northwestern Ontario all the way across to British Columbia, it was dry. So there's a real shortage of feed. Producers found themselves in a position where feed was very costly and also very hard to obtain, and really we've run out of feed in many parts of Western Canada, and so it's worked out quite well that fortunately we had a good hay crop in other parts of Canada, and we've been able to put together a program it's not going to fix all the problems, but certainly does help individual producers and can get the farm families and their animals through the winter.
And what's at risk here, sir? What is the importance of this program during this time?
Well, the big part of what we're trying to do is save valuable breeding stock. Producers, ranchers put years and years into developing their herds. And when we get into a cycle like this, we've been so dry and pastures were so poor that, when you run out of feed, you have to basically send your animal for animals to be processed and slaughtered. And when it starts eating into your breeding stock, it's really going to affect the cattle herd for years to come. So we're trying to save as much of that breeding stock and keep it on farms across Western Canada as possible.
All right, sir. So how many farmers has this program helped so far?
We're, coming up to, we've helped over 20,000 cattle with producers right across really all of Western Canada. Hay has come from, Prince Edward Island, all the maritime provinces, except Newfoundland, of course, but and Ontario and Quebec. And it's been an important program for individual producers and their herds to get them through the winter. And as I say, save that breeding stock so that those animals will be able to, herds will be able to get replenished next year.
And we know you're also the president of the Agricultural Producers Association of Saskatchewan. So would you be able to share with us the situation for farmers in Saskatchewan in particular?
Well, it was a very dry year in a lot of the province. I think that was the biggest story for this year was the dry weather, and it for grain producers and ranchers was extremely dry. But this is a good news story that we've seen here. Eastern farmers step up and help Western farmers. It's happened before. In 2002, hay came west, but I think it was in 2012, Hay West actually turned back to Hay East, and we sent hay back the other direction. So it's really been fortunate. The federal government has stepped in and to this point given us $4 million to help with transportation. That's a big part of the program. It's a major cost of the program, but with between the federal government and also some corporate donations from groups like Canadian National Railway, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, even the provincial government of Prince Edward Island, and Farm Credit Corporation have all put in money as well to help with transportation costs.
All right, sir, just over a minute left here, but how does the process of transporting hay work?
Well, we just are using most of these, the load by truck or backhauls out of Eastern Canada back into Western Canada. We're also shipping some by rail through containers on the CN network. So it's a good way to use trucks that are coming back empty from Eastern Canada to the West, and it's been successful at this point. And we sell the hay, buy the hay for 10 cents a pound, and sell it for 10 cents a pound. And with this transportation help from the government, we've been able to move this hay, and we've got 10 million pounds shipped already, and over 100 million pounds sourced. So we're looking forward to having a busy winter season and getting the hay to where it's needed in Western Canada, and as well as BC. Recently, with the recent problems in BC, there's lots of need out there too. So we may be including BC producers as well.
All right, sir. Mr. Lewis, thank you again for joining us today on Forum Daily.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. We'll have more news from around the world coming up next after the break. Two new British studies seem to bolster earlier research that suggests Omicron may not be as harmful as the Delta variant of COVID-19. But scientists are stressing that even if the findings of these early studies hold up, any reductions in severity need to be weighed against the fact that Omicron spreads much faster than Delta and is more able to evade vaccines. High numbers of infections could still overwhelm hospitals. Data out of South Africa, where the variant was first detected, also suggests Omicron might be milder there. Christmas concerts and other events have been canceled in Greece. This is under new restrictions that include a general mask mandate for outdoors in all public areas. The restrictions will take effect on Friday. This comes as the country braces for the expected impact of the Omicron variant of the coronavirus, with the Public Health Service already under pressure and intensive care space at more than 90% capacity. Under orders not to leave home unless necessary, the 13 million residents of the northern Chinese city of Xi'an are adjusting to a lockdown, which was imposed after a spike in coronavirus cases. The measure comes just weeks before the country hosts the Winter Olympics in Beijing. China has recorded just 7 Omicron cases. Russian President Vladimir Putin has urged the West to move quickly to meet Russia's demand for security guarantees, precluding NATO's expansion to Ukraine and the deployment of the military alliance's weapons there. Mr. Putin accused the West of trying to make Ukraine, quote, anti-Russia, constantly beefed up with modern weapons and brainwashing the population. The Russian leader welcomed talks with the U.S. in Geneva next month, but warned that he wants quick results. Turkey's state-run agency says a joint Turkish and Qatari delegation is traveling to Afghanistan. This to discuss plans for their two countries' companies to run Kabul's international airport in a partnership. Anadolu agency said officials from Turkey and Qatar met in Doha this week. This was to coordinate details of the plan. NATO member Turkey, which has historic and cultural ties to Afghanistan, managed and protected Kabul's airport for 6 years until U.S. and other NATO forces left Afghanistan following the Taliban takeover. All right, well, meanwhile, Germany's foreign minister is promising to speed up evacuation efforts out of Afghanistan. Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock said Thursday that more than 15,000 people whom Germany had promised to take in remain in Afghanistan, and around 135 German citizens are still in the country. She insisted that they have not been forgotten. Germany so far has facilitated the departure of about 10,000 people since Afghanistan fell to the Taliban. A United Nations report estimates that 22 million Ethiopians will require humanitarian assistance in 2022. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs stated in a report that Ethiopia's already high humanitarian needs are expected to rise in the coming year. This is due to the ongoing conflict, drought, flooding, disease outbreaks, and locust infestation. It said urgent action is needed to reverse deepening drought impacts in southern and eastern Ethiopia. A monument at a Hong Kong university commemorating the Tiananmen Square massacre was removed on Thursday. The 8-meter-tall Pillar of Shame, which depicts 50 torn and twisted bodies piled on top of each other, was made by a Danish sculptor. It was made to symbolize the lives lost during the June 1989 military crackdown on pro-democracy protesters in Beijing's Tiananmen Square. The dismantling of the sculpture came days after pro-Beijing candidates scored a landslide victory in Hong Kong legislative elections. The university asked that the monument be put in storage, fearing that it could pose legal risks. U.S. consumer prices rose 5.7% year over year in November, following a 5.1% increase in October. That is the fastest pace in 39 years. The data shows that a surge in inflation battered Americans as the holiday shopping season was getting underway. Today's report also shows that consumer spending, which accounts for 70% of economic activity in the U.S., rose 0.6% in November. And the Canadian Red Cross started up the Friendly Calls program early last year. This was to help people in lockdown cope with loneliness and isolation. The program has expanded to every province and the Northwest Territories. Participants are matched with trained volunteers who call once a week to check in or to have a more meaningful conversation. Wendy Goodall, a widow in her 70s living in rural Saskatchewan, says she and her Red Cross volunteer are now good friends. I'm Nima Rajan, and that'll do it for your look at national and international news for today. Remember, for more news on demand, you can always visit our website, thenewsforum.ca, or follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll see you next time, Canada. Take care and have a happy holiday.